Once again, I welcome to RM Classroom. So in the last class, I have discussed about the codal provision related to the effective span, how to compute the effective span in case of simply supported continuous and cantilever beam or slab. And after that, we have discussed the effective length to the effective depth ratio in case of cantilever simply supported and continuous beam when our span is less than 10 meter. And we have also seen that how to compute the L by a small d ratio in case of simply supported and continuous beam. And after that, the codal provision, we have seen that how to compute the effective width of flange in case of isolated T beam and T beam, and then isolated L beam and L beam we have discussed. So today I will discuss the codal provision related to the compression member, and according to IS 456/2000, what is the criteria to identify whether the column is short or long, and then the codal provision related to the minimum eccentricity, and then how to compute the development length, and codal provision related to the lap splices. So let us discuss about the codal provision related to the compression member. So code says that column or strut is a compression member, and when in case of compression member, our effective length should be greater than 3 times the least lateral dimension. If the effective length is less than equal to 3 times the least lateral dimension, then that is called pedestal. A compression member may be considered as short column when our effective length in x direction to the capital D, or effective length in the y direction divided by b, and it should be less than lambda. This is also called the slenderness ratio. So the effective length in x direction divided by d, or effective length in y direction divided by b, it should be less than 12, then it is called short column, and otherwise it is called long column. Once the LEX by D or LEY by B greater than 12, then it is called long column, and this ratio is called slenderness ratio. The unsupported length of a compression member shall be taken as the clear distance between end restraints. And we can see that the various codal provision, that what is the theoretical value of effective length and recommended value of the effective length. So according to IS 456/2000, effectively held in position and restrained against rotation in both ends, means when both ends are fixed, then recommended value of the effective length is 0.65 L, and theoretical value of effective length is 0.5 L. Similarly, we can see that when our effectively the end about the end condition, so when the our one end is effectively held in position and both end and restrained against rotation at one end, or one end is fixed and other end is hinged, then we can see that the recommended value of effective length according to IS 456 is the 0.8 L, and theoretical value is 0.70 L. Similarly, once the another end condition, then effectively held in position at both ends and but not restrained against rotation, or we can also say that when both ends are hinged, then in this case effective length is equal to the unsupported length, theoretical and recommended value, that will be the same. Similarly, we can see that when the one end is effectively held in position and restrained against rotation, means one end is fixed and other end is restrained against rotation but not held in position. So in that case, our recommended value is our theoretical value is L, and recommended value, that is the 1.2 L. Similarly, if one end is fixed and other end is partially restrained against rotation but not held in position, so in that case no theoretical value is suggested by the IS 456, but the recommended value we can take 1.5 L. Similarly, when one end is effectively held in position at one end but not restrained against rotation, and at the other end restrained against rotation but not held in position, so in that case we have to take the theoretical value is 2L and recommended value is also 2L. Similarly, we can see that when one end is fixed and other end is free, like the example of one end is fixed and other end is free, like electric pole, and so in that case we have to take the effective length is 2L. Or we can also say that effectively held in position and restrained against rotation, that is one end is fixed and other end is not held in position, not restrained against rotation, so the other end is free, so in that case we have to take the effective length, that is 12. So these are the 7 boundary condition. With the different boundary condition, we have to take the effective length, and then we have to use that effective length. So according to clause 25.3, the slenderness limit of the column. So the unsupported length between end restraints shall not exceed 60 times the least lateral dimension of a column. If in any given plane one end of a column is unrestrained, its unsupported length L shall not exceed 100 b square by d. Similarly, the code also suggests about the minimum eccentricity. So minimum eccentricity is the unsupported length divided by 500, or least lateral dimension divided by 30 or 20 mm, whichever is more. Or we can also compute the minimum eccentricity in xx and yy direction. So in xx direction, we can compute the minimum eccentricity, that is L by 500 plus capital D by 30 or 20 mm, whichever is more. Or similarly, we can compute the minimum eccentricity in yy direction is L by 500 plus B by 30 or 20 mm, whichever is more. So let us take one problem that is asked in GATE 2003. The effective length of a column in a reinforced concrete building frame as per IS 456-2000 is independent of the. So effective length generally depend on the frame type, braced, non-sway or unbraced, means end condition. Similarly, span of the beam, height of the column and load acting on the frame. So our D option, that load acting on the frame, and effective length will not depend on the load acting on the frame. It will depend on the end condition, span of the beam, height of the column. So our D option is correct. So we can see that effective length is equal to, we can write K into L, where L is the unsupported length, L is the effective length, and K is the function of end condition. We have already discussed that when one end is fixed and other end is free, so the value of K we have to take 2. Similarly, one end both ends are hinged, so in that case we have to take the value of K is equal to 1. Similarly, another question, that is in a reinforced concrete, pedestal is defined as the compression member whose effective length does not exceed its dimension by 3 times. So we have already discussed this is the direct question from the IS code, that is the codal provision. So the effective length should be less than equal to 3 times the least lateral dimension. So option B is correct. Similarly, the effective length of a circular electric pole of length L and constant diameter erected on the ground is. So we can see that as I told you, electric pole means one end is fixed and other end is free. So in that case, let us assume the L is the unsupported length. Let L be the unsupported length. So effective length, we know that L effective is equal to K into unsupported length, where K is the end condition. So here we can the value of K will be 2. So in that case, effective length is equal to 2 times the unsupported length. So D option is correct. Similarly, if I take the another question, that is, this is asked in GATE 2015. So a column of size 450 by 600 mm has unsupported length of 3 meter and is braced against sideway in both direction. According to IS 456-2000, the minimum eccentricity with respect to major and minor axes are. So if I compute the minimum eccentricity, so the column is given a column of size 450. So this is 450 and this is 600. Let us assume this is xx and this is yy. So if I compute the minimum eccentricity, E minimum major axis means xx is equal to unsupported length L by 500 plus lateral dimension. So about xx, the lateral dimension is D. So D by 30 or 20 mm, whichever is more. So we can compute the unsupported length of the column is 3 meter. So 3 by 3000 divided by 500 plus least lateral dimension is 600. 600 by 30. 600 by 30 or 20 mm, whichever is more. So if I compute, so it will be 6 plus 20 means 26 or 20 mm, whichever is more. So the minimum eccentricity in x direction will be 26 mm. Similarly, if I compute the minimum eccentricity in y direction, so it will be the unsupported length by 500 means 3000 divided by 500 plus 450 divided by 30 or 20 mm, whichever is more. So it will be 6 plus 15, 21 or 20. So whichever is more means 20 mm, 1 mm. So we can see that the options are 26 and 21. So the B option is correct. So now I am going to discuss the development length of bar. So code suggests that development length, expression of development length is phi sigma s divided by 4 tau bt, where phi is the nominal diameter of the bar, sigma s is the stress in the bar at the section considered at the design load, and the bond shear stress, that is the tau bt, is the design bond stress that depends on the grade of concrete. Similarly, according to limit state method, so the expression of the development length is 0.87 fy 5 by 4 tau bt, and we can see that the from here, so this is the length of development length. Here we can see that this portion is development length. Here we can also see that this portion is called development length, which is embedded in concrete. So this portion is called development length. So code suggests that design bond stress for deformed bar shall be 60% higher than the design bond stress for plain bar. So for deformed bar, we have to increase the value of bond shear stress by 60%, and when the bar in compression, so the value of bond stress for bar in tension shall be increased by additionally 25%. So code suggests that the permissible bond stress, we can see that for mild steel reinforcement in tension, according to the working stress and limit state, we can see the value of tau BD value, and as I told you that it depends only the grade of concrete. So with the various grade of concrete, the value of bond shear stress is given. So for HYSD or other types, increase above value by 60%. So remember in mind that this value is suggested for the mild steel. So other higher types, higher strength of bar like HYSD or other types like Fe415, Fe500, so we have to increase this value by 60%. And when bars in compression, so once again we have to increase the tau BD value by additionally 25%. So let us take the few problems based on the development length. So which one of the following is the correct expression to estimate the development length of a deformed reinforcing bar as per IS code in the limit state method? So we know that the expression of the development length is equal to phi into sigma s divided by 4 tau bt. But for deformed bar, we have to increase tau BD value by 60%. So the LD expression of development length is phi into sigma s divided by 4 into 1.6 into tau BD. So we can write phi sigma s divided by 6.4 into tau BD. So this is the expression of development length. So the option C is correct. Similarly, another question asked in GATE 2015, the development length of a deformed reinforcement bar can be expressed as 1 by K. So the development length expression for the deformed bar is given. LD is equal to 1 by K into phi sigma s divided by tau BD. From the IS 456 2000, the value of K can be calculated. So this is very similar question whatever I have solved. So we know that the development length expression LD is equal to phi into sigma s divided by 4 into tau BD. Similarly, for deformed bar, so for deformed bar, for deformed bar, for deformed bar, we have to increase the value of tau BD by 60%. Tau BD value is increased by 60%. So we can write LD is equal to L2 is equal to 5 into sigma s divided by 4 into 1.6 into tau BD. So it will be 5 sigma s divided by 6.4 tau BD. And the development length for the deformed bar is suggested in the question, that is 1 by k into 5 sigma s, that is 1 by k into 5 sigma s divided by tau BD. So here we can see that if you equate these two, so the value of k will be 6.4. So the answer is the value of k is 6.4. Let us take the another problem. So as per IS 456/2004 M20 grade of concrete and plain bars in tension is design bond stress tau BD is 1.2 megapascal. Further, IS 456/2000 permits the design bond stress value to increase by 60% for HYSD bars. The stress in the HYSD reinforcing steel bars in the tension sigma s is equal to 360 megapascal. So find the required development length LD for HYSD bar in terms of the bar diameter phi. So we have to find the development length. So we can see that this is the plain bars, the development length. So we can see that the development length LD is equal to 5 into sigma s divided by 4 tau BD. And for deformed bar, here it is given that bond shear stress for the plain bars in tension. Further, the IS permits the design bond stress value is increased by 60% for HYSD bar, and the sigma s value is given. So find the required development length for HYSD bars terms of the bar diameter phi. So we can, for deformed bar, this is for the plain bar. So for deformed bar, LD is equal to 5 sigma s divided by 6.4 into tau BD. 5 into sigma s is given 360 megapascal. So 360 divided by 6.4 into tau BD. Tau BD is given 1.2. 1.2. So it will be LD is equal to 360 divided by 6.4 into 1.2. So it is 46.87. 46.8755. So let us take the another problem. The development length in compression for a 20 mm diameter deformed bar of grade Fe415 embedded in concrete of grade M25 whose design bond stress is 1.4 Newton per meter square. So we have to find the development length for the compression when bars in compression. So for plain bar in tension, we can write the development length is 0.87 Fy 5 divided by 4 tau BD. And for deformed bar, the tau BD value is increased by 60%. So we can write the expression of development length is 0.87 Fy 5 divided by 4 into 1.6 into tau BD. So it will be 0.87 Fy 5 by 6.4 into tau BD. And when bars in compression, so we can increase the tau BD value by 25%. So when bars in compression, increase the tau BD value by 25%. So the LD is 0.87 Fy 5 by 6.4 into 1.25 tau BD. So if I put the value, so 0.87 into 415 into that diameter is used 20 mm diameter. So 20 divided by 6.4 into 1.25 into the bond stress is 1.4 Newton per mm square. So 1.4. So the development length will be 644.73 mm. So it will be approximately 645 mm. So if I see the option, so the D option is correct. Code also suggests about the according to clause 26.2.2, anchoring is provided by bends and hooks at the end, which is equivalent to resistance provided by straight bars. So we can see that equivalent anchorage length for uh, this standard 90-degree bend is 8 times the diameter. Similarly, for the U-type hook, so for the U-type, we can see that the equivalent anchorage length is 16 times 5. So for each 45-degree bend, we have to increase the value of 4 5. So 4 5 plus 4 5 plus 4 5 plus 4 5. So it will be 65. So the anchorage value of bend shall be taken as 4 times the diameter of the bar for each 45-degree bend, subjected to the maximum of 16 times of the diameter of the bar. Similarly, anchorage length of bends and hook are not considered in case of compression. So only we have to take the value of this anchorage length and hooks, and it is not considered in the case of compression. So another codal provision about the lap splices. So lap splices shall not be used for the bar larger than 32 mm diameter. So lap splices is not preferred when our diameter of the bar is greater than 32 mm. So in that case, when our bar's diameter is greater than 32 mm, so in that case generally we prefer the welded uh, welded or mechanically spliced. So we can see that the example of various example of splices. Here we can see that the two bars are spliced. Here also called the these two bars are spliced, and this is called lap splice length. So code suggests that the lap splice length or lap length including anchorage value of hook for bars in flexure tension shall be the LD or 35 whichever is more, or for direct tension it will be 2 LD or 35 whichever is more, and the straight length of lap length shall not be less than 15.5 or 20 200 mm. So the lap length for the flexure tension we have to take the value of including anchorage value, so it will be the development length or 30 times the diameter, or in case of direct tension it will be 2 times the development length or 35 whichever is more. Similarly, code also says that the lap length in compression shall be equal to the development length in compression but not less than 24.5. So the lap length in case of compression we have to directly compute the development length in compression, that is the 0.87 fy5 by 4 into 1.6 into 1.25 tau BD, and that will be the exactly equal to the lap length, but in no case the our lap length value should be less than 24 times the diameter. When bars of two different diameters are to be spliced, so the lap length shall be calculated on the basis of diameter of smaller bars. So let us assume two bars of different diameter is spliced. So the lap length is equal to the development length. So for the computation of this development length, we have to need the value of diameter. So minimum diameter of the bar should be required. Code also suggests about the maximum distance between bars in tension. So the horizontal distance between parallel reinforcement bar near the tension face of the beam shall not be greater than the following. In case of 250 FE 250 it will be 300, and in case of 415 it will be 180, and in case of 500 it is 150 mm. Similarly, in case of slab, so the horizontal distance between the parallel main bars shall not be more than 3 times the effective depth or 300 mm, whichever is less. And if I take the account of shrinkage and temperature, then the this value should not exceed the 5 times the effective depth or 450 mm, whichever is less. Minimum value of nominal cover for different structural member depends upon the exposure condition, because cover is directly related to the durability of the structure, and we can see that for different exposure condition the nominal cover, like for mild exposure the nominal cover should be minimum cover is 20 mm, and for the moderate exposure it will be 30, and for very extreme it is 75 mm. For footing, minimum cover shall be 50 mm. So code suggests that for footing minimum cover we have to take the 50 mm, and code also says about the requirement of reinforcement for the structural member. So the tension reinforcement. So the minimum tension reinforcement provided in the beam is 0.85 BD by Fy, where B is the width of the beam, D is the effective depth, and Fy is the grade of steel. And the maximum tension and compression reinforcement should be less than equal to the 4% of the entire area of the beam, that is capital B into capital D, where capital D is the overall depth of the beam. So here we can see that compression reinforcement is also, it should not be less than greater than 0.04 BD, and the minimum tension reinforcement for the it is, we have already discussed, that is 0.85 BD by Fy, where we have to use the effective depth, and for the computation of maximum compression or maximum tension reinforcement we have to use the overall depth. The code suggests about the side face reinforcement. So when the depth of the beam or depth of the web in a beam exceeds the 750 mm without the torsion reinforcement, then we have to take the we have to provide the side face reinforcement on both sides of the along the two faces, and the total area of such reinforcement shall not be less than 0.1% of the web area. But remember in mind that when the depth is exceeds 750 mm without torsion reinforcement, and when the depth of the beam is exceed 450 mm with tension reinforcement, once again we have to provide the side face reinforcement. So here I written that when the depth of the beam is greater than 750 mm, so the, and when beam is not subjected to torsion, so the we have to provide the side face reinforcement on both the sides, and the total reinforcement is 0.1% of the total area. Similarly, for the when the depth of the beam is greater than 450 mm, so, and when beam is subjected to torsion reinforcement, so once again we have to provide the side face reinforcement. So let us take the problem. For the beam cross section, width is given, it is 230 mm, and effective depth is given, that is 500 mm, and the number of rebars of 12 mm diameter required to satisfy the minimum tension reinforcement satisfied by the IS 456, uh, assuming grade of steel is Fe 500. So we have to find the number of bars of 12 mm diameter. So the minimum tension reinforcement is equal to 0.85 V into D divided by Fy. So if I compute the minimum tension reinforcement, so 0.85 into 230 divide into 500 divided by Fy is 500. So it will be, so the total area, minimum area is 0.85 into 230. So it will be 0.85 into 230. So it is 195.5 mm square. 195.5 mm square. So the number of bars, so the number of bars is equal to 195.5 divided by pi by 4 into 12 square. So it will be into 4 divided by 144 pi. So it will be 1.728, means approximately 2 bars we have to provide. 2 bars. So the minimum and the number of rebars of 12 mm diameter required to satisfy the minimum tension reinforcement. So it will be 2. A reinforced concrete RC beam. This question is asked in GATE 2016. A reinforced concrete RC beam with width of the 250 mm and effective depth of 400 mm is reinforced with Fe415 steel. As per the provision of IS 456-2000, the minimum and maximum amount of tensile reinforcement of the section respectively. So minimum tension reinforcement, once again we have to find, and maximum tension reinforcement. So minimum tension reinforcement is equal to 0.85 V into D divided by Fy. So it will be 0.85 into width of the beam is given 230 into 500, 230 into 500 divided by grade of steel is the width of the beam is 250 and effective depth is 400. I'm sorry, for this question the effective width is 250 mm. So width is 250 mm, width is 250 into effective depth is 400 mm, and the grade of steel is if I take it, so it will be Fe415, so 415 Newton per mm square. So the minimum tension reinforcement is 0.85 into 250 into 400 divided by 415. So it is coming 204.8, 204.82 mm square. Similarly, here the maximum tension reinforcement is the 0.04 into BD. So, but the here the effective depth is given. So, with the help of that, we have to find the maximum tension reinforcement, that is 0.04 into B into D. So, it will be 0.04 into 250 into, so it will be because here overall depth is not given, so with the help of effective depth we have to find the maximum. So it will be 250 into 400, so it will be 1000 mm square, sorry, it will be 4000 mm square. Code also suggests about the deep beam. So what is deep beam? So code says that a beam shall be termed as deep beam when the ratio of effective span to overall depth is less than 2 for a simply supported beam and 2.5 for the continuous beam. So when our effective depth to overall depth ratio is less than 2, then it is called for a simply supported beam, then it will be deep beam, and in case of continuous beam the ratio should be less than equal to less than 2.5. So similarly we can compute the lever arm also for this deep beam. So for simply supported beam, when our effective depth to overall depth ratio lies between 1 to 2 including 1 and 2, then the lever arm can be computed by this expression, and when our effective length to the overall depth is less than 1, then we can compute the lever arm is 0.6 L. So this is very important because the question related to deep beam is given, but is asked, but about the lever arm, so this type of question is not asked. So there is more chances that this type of question may be asked in the future. So for here for a simply supported beam, when the beam is deep, so according to this, when our effective depth, the effective length to the overall depth ratio, if lies between 1 and 2 including 1 and 2, then we can compute the lever arm from this expression, or otherwise from this expression, where effective L is the effective span, and what is the effective code suggests that effective span is the either the center to center distance between the support or 1.5 times the clear span, whichever is less. So firstly we have to find the effective span by this criteria, and once we have computed this effective span, then we can use in this formula or we can use in this formula, that depends on the ratio of effective span to the overall depth ratio. Similarly, in case of continuous beam, so we can compute the lever arm is equal to 0.2 into L plus 1.5 into capital D, where D is the overall depth, L is the effective span, and effective span is same, that is the center to center distance between the supports, or 1.5 times the clear distance, whichever is whichever is less. And the lever arm can be computed as when our effective length to the overall depth ratio lies between 1 to 2.5 including 1 and 2.5, then we can apply this formula, otherwise apply this formula. So this question is asked in ESE, Engineering Services Examination 2012. A simply supported beam is considered as a deep beam. So it is very straightforward question. If the ratio of effective span to overall depth ratio is less than, so it will be for simply supported beam it will be 2, and in case of continuous it will be 2.5. Code also suggests about the transverse reinforcement spacing. So for vertical is tied up, the maximum spacing should be provided 0.75 d or 300 mm, whichever is less. And for inclined style up at 45 degree, the spacing should be equal, maximum spacing should be less than d or 300 mm, whichever is less, where d is the effective depth. And minimum code also suggests about the minimum shear reinforcement. So minimum shear reinforcement of the in the form of stirrup shall be provided such that the ASB by B into SB greater than equal to 0.4 divided by 0.87 Fy, where ASB is the minimum shear reinforcement, B is the width, and SB is the spacing, stirrup spacing along the length of the member. So here one thing we have to remember, that the grade of steel should not be greater than Fe 415. If the grade of steel is Fe 500 is given, then at that case we have to put the value of Fy is 415, because it is a restriction that Fy should not be more than 415, whether it is given Fe 500 or higher grade. So we have to use we have restricted the value of Fy up to 415. If in the question the grade mild steel is given, then it is okay, it is less than 415. But if higher grade of steel like Fe 500 is given, so we have to use the Fy as a 415 Newton per mm square. So that's why this formula is very important and so many times asked in the GATE or engineering services examination. So by computing the minimum shear reinforcement, we have to remember that the Fy value should not be greater than 415 Newton per mm square. Let us take one question. What is the adoptable maximum spacing between vertical stirrup? So here the vertical stirrup is there. So underline this, vertical or inclined. So vertical stirrup in a RCC beam of rectangular cross section having the effective depth is 300 mm. So effective depth is given 300 mm. So the for vertical stirrup, for vertical stirrups, our spacing should not exceed 0.75 d or 300 mm, whichever is less. So 0.75 into 300, so 0.75 into 300, so it is coming 225 or 300, whichever is less. So our D option is correct. Code also suggests about the minimum reinforcement. So the minimum reinforcement must be provided in slab to take care of the shrinkage and temperature effect. The mild steel reinforcement in either direction of slab shall not be less than 0.15% of the total cross-sectional area, and in case of high strength deformed bar, it will be 0.12% of the total cross-sectional area. Code also suggests about the maximum diameter in case of slab. So the diameter of reinforcing bar shall not be exceed 1/8 of the total thickness of the slab. So let us take one problems. So what is the value of minimum reinforcement in case of Fe 415? So it is a high grade of steel. So in case of high grade of steel like Fe 415 or 500, the minimum reinforcement should be provided as 0.12%, and in case of mild steel it will be 0.15%. So our in case of Fe 415 we have to provide the minimum reinforcement in case of slab is 0.12% of the total cross-sectional area. Similarly, I have taken one question. A reinforced concrete slab is 7.750 mm thick. So the maximum size of reinforcement bar that can be used. So code suggests that the bar diameter should not be exceed. So phi should not exceed 1/8 of the thickness of the 1/8 of the thickness. So phi should not exceed. So phi should not exceed 1/8 into 75. So it will be 75 by 8. 75 by 8. So it will be 9.375. So 9 mm bars is not available in the market. So the bar diameter, maximum size of reinforcement bar should be limited to 8 mm. So maximum bar size is equal to 8 mm, because code suggests that the diameter of the reinforcing bar shall not be exceed 1/8 of the total thickness of the slab. So it should not exceed the 1/8 to the thickness of slab. So 1/8 into 75, so it is coming 9.375. It is coming 9.375. So either 9 mm bar, or if I exceed the 10 mm, so phi should not exceed the 9 mm, so 9 mm bars is not available, so it will be the option is 8 mm diameter bar we can provide.